Alright, today we're gonna talk about the desktops. Fucking desktops, man. So, I saw that Elementary OS was angry that they lost donors, so I threw them like $2 or something. The problem was I never actually tried Elementary OS. I didn't really know anything about it, other than it was Ubuntu and it shipped something called the Pantheon desktop. Now, this shouldn't be a problem, right? You know, they ship like an AMD 64 version and an ARM 64 version of their OS, so that's cool, right? You know, it should work on most computers for the most part. Problem is, there's a growing market of touchscreen computers, and that's also something that I focus on a lot since I'm more into accessibility use cases. And so I actually do have some experience with stuff like Xorg and Wayland and making accessibility things work on it. Problem is, Elementary OS has decided in their infinite wisdom to ship onboard. I don't know if you've ever used onboard before. It used to be like the best option for an on-screen keyboard. It don't really work so well anymore. And so there's been a push by KDE and GNOME to make like a Wayland compatible keyboard, you know? So when you have this, but the problem with Wayland is when you make an on-screen keyboard, it's probably only going to work on one desktop. So like there's no on-screen keyboard for, or at least as far as I know, I don't know of any good ones for like a window manager. Like let's say you're using Omarchi or something, you need an OSK. I don't know what the fuck you're going to use for that. Because like you can't use the KDE keyboard. You can probably use Malite, but that's literally a phone keyboard, which isn't really suitable for desktop use because it doesn't have enough buttons. And for some reason, they never decided to make a full layout on that keyboard. There's GNOME, which has both the GNOME keyboard, and for some reason, they also have one called GJSOSK, which is the usable one, but you can't get it on the lock screen because it's a GNOME extension. GNOME is really stupid. I hate just about everything they do, coming from an accessibility standpoint. Like, I'm sure if I was blind or something, I'd be happy with it, but like, fuck me, man. Since I decided to make low mobility my special interest, it's like, GNOME just constantly fucks me over. It's so much of a pain. But basically, like, so Pantheon Desktop is basically, like, it's GTK, right? But they don't have the GNOME extensions. They don't have GNOME. Like, so they rolled their own desktop, right? And that'd be cool. They also have a Wayland session, but they also, I don't believe, tested onboard on their Wayland session because it just doesn't fucking work. It just crashes constantly. And so, like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, so as an end user, right, this is why I've, like, put so much effort into, or at least, like, thought, I guess. I don't even know if I can say I've put effort yet. But I want Linux to be an accessible desktop for people with all sorts of accessibility needs. And it's always kind of sad to see that projects end up dying quicker than they appear, you know? So, like, we're in, like, this transitionary period with Wayland, which has really kind of fucked everybody over. Because now if you're like, okay, well, security mindset's cool, but I need an accessibility mindset. And that's sort of been put on the back burner for a lot of projects. They're way more focused on, like, shipping features or like updates, you know, than they are shit, like, just making sure basic stuff works. Like, KDE still doesn't have a way to lock your desktop. I don't know why nobody thought of that. I don't know why nobody thought of a kiosk mode. It makes a lot of sense if you do a lot of bad touches, but for some reason that's too hard to program. I don't know what the idea is behind that, but whatever, it's not my problem. GNOME, meanwhile, your desktop is always locked, so it works fine, but then you're stuck with, like, you don't have window rules or anything, and so doing accessibility stuff, especially touch accessibility on GNOME, is always going to be a lot more painful than KDE. However, you won't, like, fuck around with your layout or your desktop or anything, which is nice. But Elementary OS, they have rolled their own desktop, and the problem is they're now reliant on this third-party vendor who makes onboard, and onboard hasn't been maintained. So you basically have a non-working OSK on both Xorg and Wayland. And really, like, so the cool thing about shipping your own desktop is you have full 100% control over it. That's cool for a big team that can make a full desktop environment. But if you're a small project, I mean, like, you're gonna have to forego a few edge cases. You know, like OSK is going to be a big one because you're really just going to have to roll your own. You're going to have to develop your own keyboard from the ground up. And it would be a lot easier to pull one from somebody else, but with these Wayland ones, they're desktop specific. So we need like a generic, maybe like Wayfire or something, some sort of like generic OSK for use with like window managers and like if XFCE goes to. They don't have an OSK. XFCE doesn't have one. LXQT doesn't have one. Monte doesn't have one. So they'll need an OSK in order to be usable on these new machines. And that's kind of a weird place to be right now. Because, like, what am I supposed to do? I basically have to either use KDE or GNOME even if I don't want to, because that's the only way I'm going to have a working tablet that does tablet things. And you know, it comes down to they don't have this problem on Windows or Mac OS because you have one vendor in charge of everything. You know, if an OSK needs to be made, Microsoft will make the OSK. If Mac OS needs an OSK, they will make one, but they don't. I don't think they have any touchscreen computers right now. So I don't know. I don't even know what their OSK solution is right now. But on Linux, which is really more competing with Microsoft than it is competing with like Mac OS. Because Mac OS is obviously meant to be used on a Mac, which is going to be hardware dependent. But on Windows, you have to support all the Windows PCs. You don't necessarily have to support RISC-V or Lung Arch or something, but you do have to, you have to support pretty much all x64 at least. Yeah. And then if you can, like ARM64, because that's becoming more of a thing. So we're at this point though where like things have to get done and nobody wants to do them, you know? And that's kind of the state of open source at this moment is we have a lot of projects that need to be made, but not a lot of people that want to actually do them. And that's gonna be a thing. So yeah, anyways, I tried Elementary OS. I don't really know what I'm going to install right now because I don't want to use Fedora. I should probably use Fedora, but I don't want to. And I'm going to figure out something. It's probably going to be uBlue, honestly, like if I'm being serious. But I don't really know it's going to be a thing. I got to figure that out. It's going to be a process. But that's what I wanted to talk about today. It's just like there's this whole new way of doing things. It's going to be a long transitionary period. I'm expecting like within the realm of 10 years or so to be caught up to where Xorg was. And that's not because the display protocol is a problem. I actually don't mind Wayland as a protocol, but it needs more people, basically. It needs more developers doing the weird stuff that nobody wants to do, you know? So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Bye.